If I get a huge round of applause for him all by himself. Simon Fisher Becker.
Oyez, oyez, oyez! Fat people are emotionally disturbed and should be treated under the Mental Health Act. Oyez, oyez, oyez! Happy people have something to hide and should also be treated under the Mental Health Act. Oyez, oyez, oyez! Fat people are going to bankrupt the NHS. Bollocks. It's all examples of society bullying people. And of course, I take issue with people who try to bully the larger, ample person. Because fat people, I don't know what it's like in New Zealand, but in the UK, fat people are considered to be lazy, unproductive, and a waste of space. And legislation, more and more legislation is anti-fat. It's supposed to encourage us to go on a diet, be thin. See, that's the reason for it. And the latest thing, and when I say latest, I mean really in the last few weeks, in the UK there is the proposal, admittedly it's during a general election year, that fat people won't be allowed any benefits. I ask any of you if you've seen a sick note where it says, reason for sickness, fat. It's all nonsense. But it becomes self-prophesizing. You see, a fat person is bullied all the time, and they could easily build low esteem and become depressed, need to go to a therapist, have stress. And then they do become less productive because they're not at work so much. But my answer to anyone who's bullied is that, just ignore anything that could be potentially considered bullying and just carry on. And the one thing that's kept me going is at the end of the day I have to find money for my mortgage and to buy food for my cat. And that's my motivation. So no matter what people call me, it doesn't really matter. I could easily say, for example, thin people tend to be neurotic, controlling, and prone to OCD. Now, if I was to suggest that, people would say I'm being the bully, and because I'm large, I'm the fat bully. So, and of course, it's all nonsense. We're all individuals, and we should get on and love each other and be able to live our lives as best we like. I meet a lot of students now because I shave my head and painted myself blue, and they say to me, "Oh, life is so tough. You don't understand, it's so expensive, it's so hard." And I say, bollocks, it's always been hard. Life's never been easy. And in my day, I didn't have Google or the internet. So, for example, I used to have to pay quite a fortune for my photographs. Those of you who are aspiring performers, you will need to have photographs. Well, in my day, I had to I not only had to pay for the photographer, but I had to pay for the studio as well, £300 a time. And when I wanted to put together a showreel, I had to pay for the editor, and I had to pay for the cameraman and the sound man if I wanted to produce something myself. So it's always been expensive. Whereas nowadays with the internet, you only need one decent JPEG, and all the photos then go around, whizzing around in emails. Now, most of you know me as Dorian Mulder from Doctor Who, and I've been an actor for 30 years, and I've been very lucky that in the main I've earned my living being an actor. But prior to Doctor Who, I will admit I was considered a bit of an idiot. My basic qualifications, I've got a degree, so it's Simon Fisher Becker, BA. I have a diploma, Simon Fisher Becker, BA, LRAM. I have a professional qualification in HR, Simon Fisher Becker, BA, LRAM, Associate CIPD. Now, if you take each of those letters, BA could mean buffoon, ape. LRAM, liar, ridiculous, awful, moron, cripple-digit, pathetic dick. Those were all the terms that referred to me. And I have to admit, sometimes when some castings came through, you say things like, fat walrus of a moron. And for some reason I would be called. Right? But then, about 5 years ago now, 5 years ago in June 2010, I appeared in Doctor Who, with a shaved head, painted blue with 6 lines, and suddenly BA became brilliant, amazing, LRAM became lovely, reliable, awesome, marvellous, creative, insightful, perfect and delightful. And that just goes to show how easy and fickle the industry can be. But I would also say that life can be a bit fickle, really, whatever profession you choose. And whoever you mix with, it's only until you've been able to show them what you can really do that they'll really see what you are like. Otherwise, people in the main, if you're not careful, can appear a bit dismissive. But I always say, my favourite word, if that offends anybody, fuck off. What can I tell you? Because of Doctor Who, my life has changed considerably in that I get to travel the world. This is my 2nd time in your beautiful country of New Zealand, and I'm really grateful to Bill for inviting me over. I meet lots of lovely people. You fans are absolutely fantastic. And I can tell you that Stephen Moffat did tell me himself that when I first did Dorian, he wanted to do more with Dorian but wasn't sure. And so he sort of left him on the back burner. But then it was the fan interest, the fans wanted to know more, and actually literally asking more and more about Dorian, that he brought Dorian back. So I have to say to you fans, thank you very much for my new bathroom. And my bank manager thanks you too. It was a wonderful time. People ask what's it like working with Matt Smith. Well, he was an utterly delightful chap. A bit shy at first until he gets to know you. And then once he gets to know you, he can be very cheeky, very funny, very witty, but very caring as well. All the others, I remember the read-through for the Pandorica Omens. I looked round the room and I was the only person I didn't know. It was very, very nerve-wracking. But I walked into this room and there was like a director's table. And around the table there were A4 size pieces of paper with our name on and our character. And I walked around and there was mine. There's me here. Oh. And then to my right was Nicholas Briggs, the voice of Daleks and Simon Ending, twiddling his nose. And I was talking away to him. There was a tap on my shoulder. I looked round and it was Matt Smith. And he said, hello. He said, I'm Matt. He said, I saw your audition. I thought, shit. Because you don't think of people actually looking at your audition. He said, but just to let you know, I had to audition for Dorian. And I was one of 7 roly-poly actors, and I was lucky enough to be chosen. And so that was fun. So I had a little chat with him, then he went and disappeared off, so I went back to talk to Nicholas Briggs, another tap on the shoulder, turned round. It was Alex Kingston. And she said, hello, sweetie. Saw your audition. I thought, fucking hell. So, and absolutely, Alex Kingston has the most mesmerising eyes. And her hair, I found, all I wanted to do was run my fingers through it. But she was very sweet. And I have to thank her, really, because she helped me a lot on the scene I did in the Dark Road, because I was terrified. I was going to mess up. Absolutely terrified. But she was very sweet, and I have to thank her very much indeed. Then when I got called back for A Good Man Goes to War, when I met Matt, he welcomed me with open arms, and he gave me a huge bear hug. And all I could think, the fan inside me was saying, oh my God, it's the Doctor hugging me. And I became 12. Yeah, but that was really good fun. And the scene where Dorian's head is upside down in the TARDIS. Well, the bits between me and the Doctor were filmed on different days. So on the day that they filmed his part, he invited me onto the set inside the TARDIS. Absolutely amazing. And I sat underneath the console and spoke my lines in thunderstorms for him to respond to. And then afterwards, he spent about 10 or 15 minutes showing me around the TARDIS. And my favourite toy on Matt Smith's TARDIS is the old-fashioned typewriter. It just caught my imagination and I loved it. So he was really good, and he was the one who told me about these fantastic conventions. I knew of them, but I had no idea what the experience would be like. And he said, if you're invited, take the chance because you'll really enjoy it. And so that's really why I'm here. Now, I think I've spoken for too long now, so the floor is open to you. Has anyone got any questions? There we go. First question. He's got no time.
How did it feel being decapitated?
How did it feel being decapitated? Well, actually, that was it was the second day of filming, in fact. The first day of filming of The Good Man Goes to War was with Francis Barber, who was the eye patch lady. Second day, we went to an RAF base, and where it was filmed in an aircraft hangar, and it was freezing cold. You could actually see your breath. And I was totally unaware that they were going to film the scene where I actually lose my head. I mean, I knew that was the scene, but at the specific point, I wasn't aware, because they very kindly left a large chair for me to sit on to watch whilst other things were going on. And just prior to them filming my decapitation, they were filming the rest of the fight. And I was there. And then somebody called me over. And they said, oh Simon, can you just go over there? So I went over there. The next thing I know, somebody manhandles, turned me around, and they put a green sock on my head. That's that. And it was, what? And it was only then that I realised, oh, it must be this scene. And then I couldn't see anything. All I could see through the gauze of this green stocking was a bright white light. That's all I could see. And then somebody said, put your right hand out. So I put my right hand out. And they put the sword in my hand. But of course, as soon as they put it in, it was so heavy, I fell on the floor. It was really, really heavy. So there was all the cumbersome movement of trying to get me up. I got up again, and all they said was, walk forward, walk backwards, walk sideways. It was very good. And what you lot don't see was on the floor, there were all the electric cables and goodness knows what. So it was inexperience. It was the most disappointing time when you think it was such a major issue to Dorian. We thought it was really quite a big thing to do. Right, any more questions? Hands up. If you don't ask a question, I'll just keep talking. Right, how many of you have seen the prequel to A Good Man Goes to War? Yes, right. People say it must be a cushy number, you just have to learn a few lines and speak a few lines when you're told to, and it makes the performance sound very simple. But things that can happen, particularly in television, are things that change at very short notice. So you will spend the night before trying to learn your lines. You turn up on the set thinking you know the lines, and just before you're about to start, they'll say, oh, we've got a few green sheets. Green sheets normally means change of dialogue. And they're not necessarily written on green, they're just called green sheets. Well, filming A Good Man Goes to War, in one evening, about 5:30, somebody came up to me and said, Steve wants to know, would you like to do a trailer for this episode? So I said, oh, yes, I'd love to. She said, there'll be you and 3 other characters. And I said, great. Are we going to have time to rehearse? Probably not. We intend to do it tomorrow morning at 9. Okay. He hasn't finished writing the script yet. They'll get it to your trailer when you finish tonight. Well, we finished at 11 p.m. So I got to my trailer, opened up, and it wasn't until I read the script of the preview of the prequel of A Good Man man goes, well, that it turned out that the other three characters were headless monks, so they were mute. So in other words, overnight I had to learn a monologue. I shit myself, I can tell you this. Although the words seem very simple, trying to get them in the right order and short letters is a bit of a panic, but I managed it. But it was the most bizarre situation. Right, anybody else got a question? Right,
How did they film you?
how did they film me with my head upside down? Again, it was another thing that was a bit rushed because it turned out to be the very last thing of the production period. There was no tomorrow. Right? And everybody, when they finished with me, were going to rush off and try and catch their trains home. So that was it. And what they did was they put me on a table, upside down on my back. They put the camera above my head and turned it around. So it was the camera, in fact, that was upside down. They then said, right, same time, Simon, we'll give you your cue and you just deliver the line. Fine, I said, only to find that they delivered the cues in the wrong order. But I managed it, and so it's clever editing that got the lines in the right order that you actually see. And then literally within 20 minutes, and then we're off. And then this tumbleweed comes into the studio. That's it, we never see anybody again. So, anyway, any more questions? Yes.
Is there any expectation of us learning more about Dorian in future episodes?
Are there expectations of more episodes of Dorian?
Yes.
Well, I'm always expecting more episodes, but I don't know, it's up to the powers that be. I'm constantly up. I know that there is a fan interest, and I know from the numbers of people like here today who come and see me and ask my autograph that there is definite interest in Dorian. And you will have noticed in the, particularly in Series 7 and also in Series 8, Dorian gets mentioned. And even at Matt Smith's transition, Christmas special, he refers to handles, he bought handles at the Bolivarian market. And a friend sent me a text and says, so you have a market? So I sent a text back saying, apparently so. So yes, it would be nice. I've let it be known that if they want to bring Dorian back, they can. If they want to bring Dorian back, I'd be more than happy to reprise the role. And after all, I want to know more about Dorian as well. I mean, what was Dorian's debt? I'd love to know that. And also, I could give you a little secret. In the read-through of A Good Man Goes to War, there was a reference to Dorian's mother. And Dorian's mother was a composer. And it is she who wrote the attack prayer. And Dorian says, good God, that's the attack prayer. So I think to myself, is Dorian musical in any way, or is he a conductor, effectively pulling strings with it? What was Dorian's debt? We all have an imagination. And of course, we've got to remember that Dorian had a vortex manipulator that he sold to Dr. Sol. Well, you can't tell me he hasn't played with it. So it may be that Dorian first played the Doctor in Capaldi's time. So there's a full-bodied. So we don't know if it's all right. Any more questions? Oh, no.
Did you stay in Dubai the whole time, or
did I stay in the Blue Dye all the time? But no. I mean, for me, I was very lucky, really. The makeup was very straightforward. The blue was water-based, body-based, and whatever make it was number 37. I noticed 37 written on the bottle. It was very straightforward for me. They shaved my head the first time, and the reason they shaved my head, Stephen Moffat came to me and said, do you mind if we shave your head? And his explanation was that with HD, a skull cap tends to look like a skull cap. And of course, being Doctor Who, you never say no. And to my surprise, they paid me £35 for that. I only pay a tenner for the haircut, so I had to do that. So they shaved my head and then they rubbed in some protection barrier cream, and then they slapped on the blue paint. And the only figure of it was they put some black mascara and the bottom eyelid, which reacted with my eyes, and that's why my eyes watered. And people wanted to know how I managed to get my eyes to glisten. The answer is you stuck a mascara pen in. So, and when I had my body, I mean, basically it was my head, my neck, down to just above my boobs, and then on my hands it was up my arm, about halfway up my arm, and then there was blue nail polish on my fingers. So it wasn't my entire body. So it'd be interesting to see how much blue paint they've got should Durham appear in a jacuzzi. Or whether in fact it would stick, because that was the other thing was that they sprayed some fixing agent, and it was disgusting. And you know, hairspray, sometimes you can taste it. Well, it was vile. It's the worst part of it. And ironically, it didn't really do the job because you perspire from underneath. So all it did was make the hands very sticky. So that was a little uncomfortable. But it was an interesting time, because when I first saw in the mirror the blue being put on, I could see that Dorian was definitely going to be a striking image, but I had no idea of the fascination that it would bring to the fans. I mean, you have to tell me what the fascination is. I just burn my nines and open my mouth, out came these noises, but you all seem to like it. It was quite fascinating. And apparently there is a Dorian model somewhere out there in the world. I've not actually seen them myself for merchandise. When we did the River of Wedding Song, I did joke they would have to make it a detached one. And I actually imagined with their head in the box that it would be a money box. I don't know how many of you had a money box that used to be like a skeleton, that a hand would come out and grab the coin and then snatch it in. Well, I imagine that to be Dorian's tongue. But I don't know. But it was Peter Hoare, the director of Good Man Goes to War, who first told me about. He actually referred to it as an action figure. I mean, you look at the shape of me, I've never imagined myself to be an action anything. So, but it was very interesting, and also sometimes things happen very quickly. People comment about my iconic pose that appears in the marketing, etc. Well, all that happened was that a stage light popped, so they needed 20 minutes to reset everything. And in that 20-minute period, somebody else came over to me and said, "Oh, could you go to the photographer over there?" And there was a white tent. And I went in there and he says, "Oh, could you just do me a series of poses?" That was it. So I just went through my 37 normal poses, and that's the one that they choose to use most of all. But it was also the time that I was told about the action figure, and I had little sticky things stuck on my head, their face and all around, and I had to stand on a turntable while they photographed me, and it turned around. So I know there was at least an intention, even if they haven't got round to doing an action figure. But do let me know. I haven't seen it yet. It'd be quite fascinating to see. But also, Peter Hoare, very good director, and he said to us all at the read-through, if you'd like to discuss anything about your characters, feel free to give me a call. So I tried to call him and he was never available. So I sent him a text and asked him if he'd got an email. And so he said yes. So I emailed him a few suggestions. One of which was that I felt that when Dorian was talking to Madame Bavarian, he should look as if he's disinterested. And so therefore he could be counting his money or playing with something else, or semi-distracted. And the other suggestion was that I'd have guns put to my head and that I just dismiss them, knock them to one side. Anyway, I heard absolutely nothing at all. So I thought, sat down on the chair and we were ready to film, ready to do the first take, and then a props guy came up to me and he said, "Hello Dorian," because we're always referred to as our character. "Hello Dorian, here's your money." And then somebody else came, "Oh, these are the two guys who are going to stick a gun in your head." Oh, okay. And all I could think was, oh, bloody hell, they did read the email, but nobody responded or chatted with me. So I just had to deal with it there and then, but it was good fun. So it was good fun. And I say to any aspiring performer, when you're on a set, unless somebody tells you directly what to do what you think is right. 9 times out of 10, they'll go with it if it works. If it doesn't work for them, they'll probably come up with something. They'll very rarely say to you, "No, that was a load of bullshit." They rarely say that. What they might say is, "Do you think we could have options?" Options is the phrase. So, but generally speaking, you're booked as an actor, and they assume you know what you're doing, and they can tell through the read-through whether you're delivering the lines that they want you to, the way they want you to, and they lead you to it, which is very good. And but sometimes, as an actor, you like to be directed, and it is very weird sensation to, you finish filming a scene, go right, that's right, on to the next, and very rarely do they have the time to come up to say, "Well done, Simon, that was very good." So you tend to rely on the sound crew, the lighting crew. As you're walking through, they might go. So if you want any praise, go and find another job. Any more questions? Yes.
And what alien species is Dorian?
He's a blue alien. He comes from planet 3459. Right? And they have a mixture of oxygen and methane is their actual intake. Hence the blue tinge. I just hope I remember that next time I understand. Right. Hello. What colour would Dorian turn if he was asphyxiated? He would probably turn pink. I don't know. I have to confess that is something I've never thought about. But I have one. The idea of Dorian losing his head has made me think, and as a child I used to wonder, until I was told I was being too morbid, when somebody gets decapitated, is there a moment that they know or sense that their head is rolling into a basket? I often used to think about that. But Dorian had the right thing. See, I have been asked in the past, how is it Dorian able to speak in the box and breathe in the box? Well, the answer is the box is organic. Hello, are you bidding? No. See, very dangerous in an auction house. You would have just bought a huge house worth £75,000. Anyway, just to go on. Any other questions? Yes? Was it Captain Jack's time vortex? Well, the answer is there are many handsome time agents. And it's just very interesting that everybody are fixated about Jack. Which actually, I would love that. My fantasy episode would be with the Doctor, Captain Jack, and Dorian. And I've actually mooted it to Mark Gatiss as an idea, who's kept very quiet, which either means he thinks it's shite, or it'll appear in some other guy. Something. I have this idea of a story that the Doctor, Dorian, and Captain Jack are stuck in some sort of vacuum. And so the whole episode is how those three characters react to each other. What they talk about, I have no idea. What the outcome is, I'm not too sure. But how they escape from it is that Captain Jack finds a zip. And as you can imagine, every time he finds a fly, he has to blame it. So that's And then that's how they... So, yes, there we go. Was it Captain Jack? The answer is I don't know what was in Stephen Moffat's mind. But there are time engines, and there are many time engines, and I'm sure Jack isn't the only answer. Next.
Which Doctor is your favourite?
Which is my favourite Doctor? Well, I was born in 1961, so I was 2 when Doctor Who started, so I freely admit I don't remember the first episode. I was probably going gurgle, gurgle. Right? But I do remember William Hartnell changing it to Patch Travel. And it was a very mesmerising image. And for weeks afterwards, I was asking him, what happens when we all die? And I kept on, he said, what happens when we all die? So all die. My grandfather said, if you ask again, you'll find out sooner. And so I always say that Patrick Troughton is my favourite Doctor, because William Hartnell was very good, but he was sort of grumpy grandpa. And Patrick Troughton was this more eccentric. And I did like the storylines, the Toy Masters and the Mind Robber, and I did like those from what I remember. I liked all the Doctors, but I always say that Patrick Troughton is my Doctor, and of course Matt Smith is my special Doctor, because I actually got to work. No more questions? Oh, well, that's only for me to say, isn't it? What's happening in the future? Exactly that. Nobody knows. But if I was to get into the TARDIS for a day, where would I go? I would very much like to be part of the first contact. Whatever, even if I'm just the T-boy. I would just like to be there. And on the other side of the coin, there are many things in my family history which we all speculate about. Why certain things happen. So I would quite like to go back to certain times in the family history and just observe and try and understand what happens. And talking about the TARDIS, when I was a kid, as I said, I was born in 1961. When my grandfather used to take us to the museum, to the zoo in London, we would go by London Underground, and the nearest tube station to our grandparents' house was about a mile away. So you can imagine a 5 and 6 year old having to walk a mile. Absolutely hated it. But also near the station was a blue box, and I was absolutely convinced it was the TARDIS, and that the Doctor would one day pop out and say hello. And if I got grumpy because we had to walk down to the station, my grandfather would say, you never know, you might get to see the Doctor today. I was out of the building, I was the first one there, knocking on the door. Hello, Doctor, are you there? And he never responded. And then one day went there and the TARDIS was gone. Absolutely mortified, but at the same time very angry that the Doctor had gone and not said hello. So from the age of 6, I said, I'm going to be the master and chase the Doctor and demand why he didn't say hello. And what was interesting, that when I got to Cardiff and I saw the TARDIS on the set for the first time, I surprised myself at how emotional I got. I welled up and I found myself putting my hand out to touch it. I didn't quite kiss it. That might have caused a problem. But I really wanted to touch it. The TARDIS subconsciously means an awful lot to me, which I didn't realise until I first went on the set. So up until that point, I said I was a follower of Doctor Who, but I have to say, like all good souls, I'm a huge fan of Doctor Who. And also from it, we learnt an awful lot. Because the programme, when it first came out, was supposed to be an educational programme, a family show, teaching. So we used to watch it as a family and discuss things that were going on. And I remember saying to my grandfather, who was an engineer, are we going to get to Mars? Do you think we can? Oh yes, he said. Definitely but we probably need a different type of fuel or energy, which we'll either discover or it will be given to us. And this phrase, given to us, is only as I'm older that